I'm Chris Oppenheim. People call me Church. I'm the owner of Interstate Inc. in Los Angeles, California. We cater almost exclusively to recovering addicts, and we have a program in place to help artists with addiction issues get their lives and careers back on track. We're trying to raise awareness, educate others, and reduce the negative stigmas associated with addiction. We want everyone to know there is hope, we do recover, and most importantly, even broken crayons still color. Hi, I'm Church. Welcome to the first episode of the Broken Crayons podcast. Got my buddy Warren here.
What's up?
AKA World Traveler. And now I'm going to sit there and torture him. So, I think it's interesting if we start off with how we met. Because I actually was told that there was a new guy in the sober living who was a fucking, who worked with like major musicians and all this shit. And I thought, yeah, right. It's Hollywood. They all do. And then you showed us a video of your birthday. You want to explain that?
Yeah. So, I think I showed up at the house July 2nd or July 3rd of 2018. And one of the reasons why I needed to be in sober living in and around my birthday up through July 20th, and we'll get into that in a little bit, was because my birthday the previous year in 2017 was the last Linkin Park show ever. We were in, I think, Birmingham, United Kingdom. It was my 38th birthday, I believe. And because it was my birthday, I, asked some of the guys in the band. I was like, hey, I got into you guys' band with this one song called Breaking the Habit. And I turned to the DJ and I was like, yo, can I play Breaking the Habit tonight since it's my birthday? And Joe was like, yeah, sure, but you got to do a little dance for us before we let you play. So, we're all walking to the stage at the beginning of the show, and, one of the last things Chester ever said to me was, hey, man, heard it's your birthday. Too bad we're going to have to humiliate you in front of 35,000 people. I didn't think much of it, and I was just like, yeah, okay, ha, 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 ha. Well, Breaking the Habit comes in the set, and, Mike Shinoda gets on the microphone and is like, hey, everybody, it's Joe's Tech Warren's 16th birthday.
16th?
Yeah. So he's gonna play this song with us. Warren, can we see the little dance? And I was like, you guys are really gonna make me do this? And so Joe's telling him in his ear what he wants me to do. And Mike's like, yeah, come on, do the dance. So they literally, before I played the song, they made me do the truffle shuffle in front of 35,000 people. And, I was a lot heavier back then, so it was a lot more comical. So I did the truffle shuffle. I played the song. Joe had me play One Step Closer as well. And then the last song of the set was, I think, either Bleed It Out or Burn It Down or whatever. But there was a drum solo in the middle of that as well. That Rob, the drummer, had me come and play the drum solo. And, the show ended, and Chester gave me this big, sloppy, wet, sweaty hug afterwards, and we all went home, and we're supposed to see each other, I think a week and a half or 2 weeks later. I forget, I think in the States. And then July 20th, 2017, we were all alerted by TMZ.
Oh, Jesus.
First thing in the morning that Chester was found dead in his house because he hung himself. And, that in itself started kind of a spiral for me. A little bit, it got a little more out of control as the time went on. But by June 11th, 2018, I had OD'd twice and tried to kill myself 3 times. And the culmination of all of that was on June 11th, where I took, about 1,000 milligrams of morphine, chased it with almost an entire 750 milliliter bottle of Tito's. And then when that wasn't working fast enough, then the belt came out, got looped over the door frame, and my neck went in it. And luckily, I had a friend staying with me who then heard what was going on and got me off of the belt. And then I fell down on the floor, and, you know, the way things worked out is because I was coughing and choking so much that I ended up throwing up most of the morphine.
Blessing in disguise.
Yeah, pretty much. So then, you know, I went and I did, I detoxed at my aunt's house. My aunt is like a 40-year recovering alcoholic. She does a lot of like life coaching and work in the Al-Anon community. So she took me in with open arms, and I detoxed with her, and then started looking for places in and around where I was living in Encino to go. And I found the Alta centers, and you know, aside from the intake stuff that I had to do, I got to the house. The first person I met was your lovely wife.
Who was my girlfriend at the time.
And you were living in the bomb
shelter in the backyard.
Yeah, you and the lizard.
Yeah.
And then you know, I like I said, I got there on like the 2nd or the 3rd or something like that. And then I was like to the whole house, I was like, yo, you know, my birthday is on the 6th, and you know, really, I just want to watch the video of the show. And yeah, so I showed
it was funny because, like I said, everybody's like, hey, plays with all these famous musicians. I'm like, yeah, sure the fuck he does, well, you know? And then you were like, you guys want to watch video of my birthday? I'm like, yeah, sure. What the fuck? And sure enough, it's you performing with Linkin Park.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this dude's actually not full of shit. But
well, I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I like in the scheme of things, you know, maybe 2 years before that, like I had filled in for the DJ for 3 whole shows, one in Berlin, one in Dusseldorf, and then one in Rome. And then because I played so many different shows and like rehearsals and like, I won't get into a lot of that, but they just were like, hey, it's your birthday? Yeah, sure. It's the end of the tour. You know,
you knew the music.
I knew the music. Yeah, it was just like, yeah, sure, come up. And you know, usually the the end of the tour, the last show of the tour is usually just like nobody gives a fuck. Like everybody's playing pranks on each other. Like, so it was just like, yeah, it's your birthday, sure, come up and do whatever. And the idea was, yeah, it's your birthday. We're just gonna joke around, and you know, we'll all see each other in a couple of weeks. But that wasn't the case. So now they are unable to release the Linkin Park last show on DVD because my fat ass is all over it.
Which is fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
So I guess I wanted to touch on was like the fact that Chester's suicide obviously affected a lot of people in a lot of ways, you know. And for you, it was almost like would you say it was like a precursor for you to, you know, get your shit together? Even, you know, like you said, things went downhill first, but ultimately it was kind of like a turning point, right?
Yeah, and you know, every year on the anniversary of his death, you know, we had, or you know, the guys started this "Make Chester Proud" hashtag thing that like kind of went around, like starting at his memorial service concert at the Hollywood Bowl. And you know, every year on my birthday, it's a reflection of how in the year previous that I've been, the actions or decisions that I've made to help make Chester proud. Because you know, if he struggled with a whole bunch of the same sort of things that I have struggled with my whole life, but in the scheme of being able to approach things with his, you know, what he ended up doing to himself in the back of my mind, I've just been able to just, you know, be thankful for the time that I spent with him and them. And, you know, it did kind of set his death set my life kind of spiraling out of control. But, you know, you got to hit rock bottom before you really decide, you know,
enough's enough
to get your shit together. Yeah. And it wasn't a full year. Like he died July 20th, and I didn't really hit rock bottom until June 11th of the next year. But it definitely was quite the rock bottom journey that I then, you know, finally started figuring it out. And you know, I say going to sober living and starting IOP and stuff like that was probably the best decision I've ever made in my entire life. And the ironic thing is that, meeting you guys and hanging out here, because, I grew up in Washington, D.C., and, aside from growing up in the middle of the crack epidemic and, our mayor smoked crack and the bitch set me up and getting reelected and blah, 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 I used
Which is phenomenal.
Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I used to hang out at a tattoo shop in Washington, D.C., right across the street from the old 930 Club before I moved to California, and I would just sit around this tattoo shop and smoke meth all day. And it was like, okay, well, now I got to California, and I'm hanging out with you guys, and I'm hanging out at a tattoo shop all day, but I'm hanging out at a tattoo shop that's got meetings going on, everybody in the recovery community, and, all kinds of support from everybody coming in and out, revolving door policy, whatever. So it was like the atmosphere didn't change, but the goal and like the things that we were doing.
It's cool that you mentioned that, dude, because that's actually the whole point of this place. My industry's just like yours, is plagued with drugs and alcohol, and this shop, it started off, believe it or not, with me tattooing in a vape shop. You remember that?
Yeah.
It wasn't even a tattoo shop. And we built it to this point where we could, bring other artists on, help them with addiction issues. But it was just nuts how it all came to be, because, like, we don't really have any clients that aren't in recovery. We don't. It's just nuts how the whole thing kind of flowed together. But, here we are.
And you definitely, helped skyrocket this whole scene into like a thing. Like, that was one of the things that I was so shocked about at the get-go, was that there's a whole sober community, sober scene, like sober, network that exists, just like the using network, just the music network, just like the tattoo network.
Believe it or not, I actually believe that the sober network is larger. It's, because everybody's clean, so it's more organized and healthier, and, you know what I mean? Like, it's able to gain more traction, so to speak.
Right.
So, I guess, like, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember you had said something about, we were talking about the domino effect from Chester, his passing, and you said, didn't you say there were copycats too?
There were obviously he touched a lot of people in his time on this planet, and there were a lot of people who not only identified with the way that he felt, but also identified with a lot of the things that he sang about. Whether some of those words were actually his or not is, still up in the air, but he touched a lot of people with the words that he sang and the words that he gave in interviews and stuff like that. So obviously when you have somebody who's got that much prominence and that much influence on people, there's going to be people who naturally feel the same way, and there's also going to be people who naturally do the same thing. So I don't know off the top of my head how many different copycat people there were, but there were a handful of fans who followed him and his words and his actions to their final T.
Jeez. It's just nuts. The domino effect, it worked in both directions. Like you said, you got the hashtag Make Chester Proud. You guys kind of worked on, getting your shit together. And it also kind of went in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Had other people like you in the beginning spiraling out of control.
Yeah, that I won't say that caused it, but I can definitely pinpoint that day to being, whereas, I worked with them for almost 10 years. And at the point right before he died, like, I thought I was at the top of my game. I had the career that I wanted. I was doing the things that I wanted. I had a relationship that was going where I thought I wanted, and it turns out that none of that shit was true. Like, I was just, walking a thin tightrope that then was cut, and I just kind of fell for a while, not knowing how to pick myself back up, and the using and abusing of myself that like exponentially ramped up in that year from when he died to when I finally started trying to pick up the pieces, was ludicrous. I mean, the using and the abusing just prior to that. I mean, I will say this, at that last show on my birthday, it was my fucking birthday. So I mean, I finished, almost an entire bottle of Jameson,
right.
And I had like 3 grams of coke in me, and was just like blazing weed all day.
Just 3?
Yeah, that was that day. But yeah, so I mean, the that lifestyle, that stigma that follows around that whole like musician touring. I mean, it exists.
Well, here's the thing: is I actually remember you making a statement that's why you got into it, because it's starting off in the rave scene. You said you didn't want the rave to ever end. Yeah. I started going to Buzz in DC when I was like 15, 16 years old. Yeah, and I was hitting the similar clubs in Baltimore, like Rise and Fever and all that shit.
Yeah, and it was like, wait, I can work here? Really? Like I can do this full time, all the time, always? Sweet, sign me up. And ironically enough, like, I climbed all the way up the ladder. Like, being from the snot-nosed little punk kid doing load-ins and stuff to being the guy running the show, but I'm the guy running the show totally blacked out. So, I mean, I did a whole Adam Lambert tour where, like, we did something like, 175 shows in, like a little over 6 months, and there was not a single show where I was not 100% blacked out by showtime.
Jesus.
And I'm the guy running the whole thing.
Right. So by running the whole thing, you should probably elaborate on it.
Yeah.
Didn't you say your laptop controls the sound system for the entire stadium?
It controls everything. So basically what I do for a living is I'm the playback engineer. So basically what that is it's like a very elaborate DJ. Everything that's not live on stage, meaning the other musicians playing instruments, is me and my computers. So, percussion loops, background vocals, little sound effects, things, auto-tune, and I won't, divulge into who uses that live and who doesn't. But
you can tell me later.
Yeah, okay. But my computer, I basically press play on the song, and it sends out a click track to everybody so that they're all playing together. It syncs with the audio that's in my computer, and then sends time code commands out to video and lighting and pyro and automation and cryo and effects and stuff like that. So basically, me and my computer systems run the whole show. So I mean, I was around the time when my life started spiraling out of control. I was working for Fall Out Boy, and I basically told them, I was like, look, I'm going through some rough shit. Like, I'm not at 100% right now. I need some leeway and some help in certain aspects. And their reply to me was, the person in your position can never be firing at less than 100%. So we ended up parting ways around the time that
Which is weird, because in blackouts, pulling off all that shit.
Yeah. I have a very, very amazing autopilut. I've been the only city that's ever beaten me was Amsterdam, and
it's Amsterdam.
Exactly. We all know why.
Yeah, trust me. I did. I've done tattoos that I don't even remember. Right. It's horrible. I this similar situation where I work in a field where I definitely need to be firing 100% too, because holy shit, this is...
Because when you're not, then you got to refix people's shit like you had to fix my back.
Above and beyond, yeah, somebody fucked you up. Above and beyond that, it's like, this is, you can fuck things up to the point where they can't even be fixed, bro. You know what I mean? Like, I just had no business with a tattoo machine in my hand and some of the mindsets that I was in, It's just tattooing out of trap houses and fucking just horrible fucking situations and horrible scenarios. You know, like at this point, I'm trying to create exactly the opposite, like we were talking about before with, you know, the tattooing and recovery, and you know, I think we're both in a line of work where, I don't know how to put this, whatever we want to be, our line of work will magnify it 110%. You know, tenfold for that matter, because. You know, I had, you know, drug issues dating all the way back to, you know, the fucking rave scene and shit like that. But once I was the tattoo guy, the drug use, tattooing allowed it to, like, boost it to a whole nother level. You know, like
Yeah, it's like in the music industry, it's condoned, if not encouraged.
Right. Encouraged.
Yeah,
That's the scary part.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, you know, we had this show. Okay, the show's over. What are we doing? What kind of debaucherous fucking nonsense are we doing in XYZ city all over the globe? You know, what kind of trouble can we get in? And it's yeah, and it becomes, you know, the story. It's just like, oh yeah, remember the time when? And it's just like
I always make the joke. My friend Warren's done drugs in every country. Yeah, I just, you know, I can definitely relate. Like I went from the dude who was just fucking, you know, like every other junkie on the street corners buying fucking dimes and 20s, and to like dudes showing up at my house with like quarter keys. And, hey, what can you do with this? Like, well, not pay you back. But I guess the point is, you get in certain lines of work, like music and tattooing and shit, you get patronized to no avail. It's like, it just, you know, it really easy to magnify whatever fucking crazy ass shit you're into.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, people are always showing up trying to trade you, you know, substances for tattoos or concert tickets, or, you know, yo man, remember that time I got you blasted after this one show? And it's like, no, but still, I recognize that you were there and we had a good time. Yeah,
return the favor.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy. What would never fucking cease to amaze me was that people would show up with the shit. You know, like, hey, I got a fifth of vodka, I got an 8-ball. Grab a dope. You want me to do this before I work? All right.
Yeah.
You know,
it's similar to people showing up to the door of the concert and being like, "Yo, man, can you get me and my homies in?" It's like, well, you know, let me see your duffel bag for a second.
Hey, what's in there?
Yeah. I mean, and it still happens. You know, I'm not to say that when I got out that it changed the whole music industry, but it's, you know, I just choose not to participate in that element of it anymore. You know, I still have a grip of homies who are, you know, still in their minds able to, you know, coexist with that shit going on, and, you know, to each their own. And I'm not a preacher, so, you know, you can do what you need to do to make sure that you're having a good time and able to function. I just can't do it anymore. If
you're able to pull it off, more power to you, but I'm not. You know, I'm the guy who's just a little too irresponsible to handle any substance of any kind.
Yeah, you know, all or nothing.
So, I guess a little bit about this tattoo, bro.
Oh, okay. So when you asked me to do this, I was like, you know, I'll be in LA for New Year's. Like, let's see if we can make this happen. And I was like, you know, I quit counting days after, I think, about 2 years. I was just like, oh no, maybe I got to 1,000 days, and I was just. So
like, what do you got? That app on your phone or something?
Yeah, I got
that counts the days for you.
I Am Sober app.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I did Pink Cloud for a while, but I just didn't really get into that. But yeah, it's just called I Am Sober, and it's just like a glorified clock. It's got some motivational things that go along with it, but it's, you know, I think it's free. I think there might be a paid version or whatever, but, you know, you told me that you want me to come do this, and I was like, yeah, well, you know, I wonder how many days I have clean when we're doing this. And weirdly enough, you know, I know you're a big numerologist, and we can get into that here in a second.
There's a 3 on my face for a reason.
But today, January 1st, 2022, is my 1300th day sober.
Which is
Almost 3.5 years.
why we're doing a clock with 13 numbers on it.
Yep.
A 13-hour clock.
Yep.
Kind of like a steampunk little type of deal going on here.
Yeah, so not only is it 13 to represent the 1300 days, but the best thing to happen in my life so far was that I just got married on the 13th of September in Hawaii, and so that's why the clock hands are pointing.
Who'd you get married to?
This,
she here?
Yeah, she's a cute little pink-haired Italian girl sitting over in the wings.
The little punk rock chick over there?
Yeah. Yeah, so we got married on the 13th of September, which was 2 years to the day after we really decided to do us as a couple. So that's why the hands are pointing to 9:13.
Nice.
Which looks like 9 o'clock on the thing because you have to look to make sure that there's...
Instead of a 12 at the top, it's actually a 13.
Right.
But,
she's been, by my side helping me, walk the straight line and do the right things when it comes to both the substance abuse stuff as well as the mental health stuff that, is the main reason why I started using and abusing myself.
Dude, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the saying, behind every strong man's an even stronger woman, because yours is sitting next to mine over there. I'm like, somebody's got to change my diaper. But yeah, man, this is actually really cool because it not only is it January 1st, but this is the first episode that we're shooting, and just the way it all lined up, you're just like, yeah, happens that I'll be in LA on the 1st if you want to do it then. And it was cool because I got not a horrible waiting list, but I'm kind of booked up, and I didn't know what I was going to do on New Year's, so I left the 1st open.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like, it fell into place, and it worked out really well. And I'm glad it did, because, yeah, it was, I always tell people, because I do bring you up from time to time, especially since you were like patient zero.
Yeah, sorry, everybody. I left China. We were in Hangzhou, China, which is about 2.5 hours west of where the epicenter of COVID was. So I left China December 9th, 2019 with a really bad cold. This is before any testing was available. I then flew back to Los Angeles.
Well, it was before the media picked it up or anything, dude.
Yeah. So I flew back to Los
We
Angeles.
didn't know anything about it.
With this cold. My lovely wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, came to visit me, and I got her sick, and she took it back to London. And then I went out on tour with Slipknot and flew to Milan and had some time off in Milan where I got sick again, so I'm pretty sure I was shedding the virus all over Milan, and that was like kind of like the worst place in Europe that had COVID at the time. So yeah, patient zero. And we're in like Finland or something in February of 2020, and we're shipping everything to Japan to have Knotfest Japan go on, and everybody's like, "Oh, there's this virus, and we don't know if if we're gonna have Knotfest Japan or whatever." I was like, "Fuck that! There's way too much money on the table.
Right.
There's no way we're not going to Japan." And I'm like going around telling everybody whatever. We get done, and I went to go hang out with my now wife in London right after that run, and all hell broke loose, and I went from FedExing my passport to the Japanese embassy to get my visa to sitting at home with my career canceled. So, that whole, sorry everybody that I've, ruined everything for everybody, but at the same time, we're testing unknown waters with how sustainable, life is, and we've learned to appreciate, the people in life who are doing the things that none of the rest of us want to do, like bagging groceries and
Yeah.
working at convenience stores and things like that. So now that we're starting to reopen some things, you know, I'm here for a large festival in San Bernardino this weekend. You know,
With who?
I'm working with Flux Pavilion, who's actually, I'm a Flux Pavilion fan. You know, like we were talking about going to the raves in and around the DC area.
Yeah.
You know, I've been listening to this guy's music for about 10 years, and I actually made a joke the other day when I met him for the first time, and I was like, "Yo, man, can you play a bunch of 10-year-old songs so I don't feel so old?" But you know, we're gonna go do this thing, and I'm gonna, you know, he's from England, and I'm just about to move to England, so he and I are gonna.
You pretty much already have, right?
I spent the majority of 2020 the majority of 2021 in England. After my wife and I got married, then it's been kind of an endeavor to get my UK spouse visa, but it finally went through. And getting that thing was like homework. Like, they wanted to know every country I've ever been to. They wanted to know every...
Which is how many for the record?
I've been to 148 countries, territories, and
probably
provinces.
done drugs in 140 of them.
Yeah. And then they wanted to know the last 2 entrances and exits for every country I've been to in the last 10 years. And just doing that alone took about 2 weeks.
I bet.
And then they want your criminal record on top of that.
Oh, no!
Yeah, so luckily, you know, they kind of like overlooked that, or it's been long enough between my sentence ending and, you know, me applying for this visa that they didn't really care too much about that. So, you know, everything's fallen into place, and, you know, along the lines of my life, there's been spots where I've like tried to get clean, and I've always found that in those spots, that's when the most amount of positive shit has happened.
Oh, imagine that.
Yeah.
It's awfully coincidental.
Yeah, exactly.
So you were just saying that things are falling into place?
Things are falling into place, and I, you know, wholeheartedly attest that to my continued sobriety.
Dude, I for the first time in my life, I'm not fucking rushing anything. I'm not pushing through. You know, even Vinny here was surprised when I said we can film all of them before we release one. He was like, "Really?" So I'm in no hurry, and everything is just, you know, like when I first came out here, I was tattooing people for food stamp cards just to get work on the street. You know, now I got a shop where I'm able to bring on other artists, help them get their careers back on track, and it's all because I just kind of went with the flow, rode the wave. That's what I always tell this guy over here: ride the wave. You know, and I'm still doing it. I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I plan on sticking with this until the day I'm not here anymore.
This guy over here just wrote something on his iPad and turned it around.
Oh, no way, really?
9/13 is my son's birthday.
Wow, dude. Really? Dude, numerology. So, like, I mean, I know, you know, you're big into the numerology thing. When I decided to get clean, the apartment that I moved into was apartment 411, and I was like, you know, maybe this is the apartment that's going to give me the information that I need in order to like continue things going. And then I had some, like, along the same lines.
We laugh, but that shit is very fucking real.
And I had some you know the trials and tribulations that's going on with my family life and whatever, and I won't get into a lot of that, but my parking space.
Just real quick, it's cool that you're fucking able to be there for your mom and all that, you know, without getting into details, because you're clean, you're available.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that I'm doing for her now that I definitely would not have been doing, and you know, one of the things that, you know, this is semi-comical and semi-not, is that my parking space at this apartment building was $287. Because I'm 100% better than doing what I should have done to fix the situation. So.
Yeah, man. Fucking numbers have always stood out for me, and the synchronicities. You know, with my wife, you know, you remember all that shit when I met her? It was like, same height, same eye color, same hair color. We're both named Chris. We're both originally from Maryland. And it was just, you know, back then, like, when I first got clean, I couldn't even think, like, outside of riddles and synchronicities, and everything was circles, and none. I couldn't think rationally, I guess. But because of all those similarities with us, I was just like, she's the one, right. You know? I knew. Like, yeah, here we are. We're married and doing some big shit together, you know, for two people that had absolutely nothing when we met, you know. We got her son living out here with us, and, yeah, brought him out, I guess, a year and a half ago or something, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, we've all come a long way since that shitty little house in Encino or Tarzana or whatever. What was that? No, Reseda.
Reseda.
Reseda, yeah.
Yeah, it was a long day living in Reseda. I used to say, there's a math lab buried in the backyard. That was my house, the bomb shelter.
Yeah.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, you even when I, like, was testing, figuring out what I was going to do after getting clean, like, you know, my wife helped me. I stayed there a couple of times, you know, off low key, off the cuff, like, just, you know, when I needed a place to crash. So, like, you know, like I said,
like when you were in town and shit like that.
Yeah, exactly. Because, you know, I'd be in town for 24 hours, 48 hours, 36 hours.
Right.
And I was just like, you know, am I going to go stay at a hotel, or, you know, I mean, and if there was like a room available at this sober living house, like, you know.
Yeah, you could stay there because it's, you know, it's a safe environment, you know, because we were all clean. I don't know how fantastic that house itself was, but
it was definitely more the environment than the.
Yeah, it didn't matter because we were done, so to speak.
But yeah, I mean, since July 2nd, 2018 until now, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but I've made more progress in my life in that short amount of time frame than I did in the previous 15 years.
Dude, it's insane. I have been in a situation like in the past where I owned tattoo shops, and I thought I was, you know, really on top of shit. Like, I thought I really had it all going on, you know what I mean? But at this point, it's bizarre, do you know what I mean? Like, I end up business partners with, you know, Michael, who owns an intensive outpatient program, you know, sober living houses. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't possibly be more connected to, you know, recovery, and I'm still tattooing. You know what I mean? Like, I know people who have quit to get clean, and that's what I was going to do. Like, but yeah, I feel like I had to go through all that bizarre shit to get where I am right now.
Yeah, well, you know, the more scars you got on you, you've obviously learned a whole bunch of lessons.
I got a few, physical and
mental.
Yeah, but all a big learning experience, man. It's been pretty cool. I'm really interested to see where it goes from here. You know, if you'd have told me I was going to be filming a podcast at a tattoo shop that's about recovery and tattooing.
There's a very Friedrich Nietzsche saying, I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but it's like, if you had your life to live over again, would you live it the same way? I think it's called amor fati. Like, do you love your life? And, you know, in some of these problems that I was having with my family and my father, I was like, yo, would you live your life over again in the exact same way? And, you know, his answer was, no way. There's all kinds of mistakes that I made and
yeah.
You know, things that I would change. And my answer was, absolutely not. I would live my life exactly the same way, including your piece of shit stuff.
I have, like, very few regrets.
Yeah.
You know, I think in my situation, because I got kids, maybe it would have been nicer to have better relationships with them. That I'm in the process of mending that now, you know, like, regardless. I think other than that, I wouldn't do anything differently.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, every mistake you made is a lesson that taught you.
Not only is it a lesson that taught me something, but that people who invited me to California were the people I met in Florida when I cut the ankle monitor off in Baltimore and ran down there. Had I not done that, which is technically fucking idiotic, it was my infinite wisdom. Had I not done that, I wouldn't have met the people who told Michael, this guy named Jeff, he told Michael about me, and I got that call. Hey, if you want to come out to LA, get your shit together, and possibly get a tattoo shop out the ground, we'd love to have you.
And the rest is fucking history, bro.
Yes, sir. And like I said, I'm really interested to see where it goes from here, because I don't know. I got a pretty creative mind, I guess, and that's what kind of where this whole, I guess you could say that, considering a tattoo for a living. But that's where like this whole podcast idea came from. And I don't know. I'm in a situation where if I come up with a fucking idea, I'm able to just act on it,
right,
rather than say, yeah, that would be neat, and it ends there.
And it sits on the shelf.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I was able to do that with my clothing line, and I was able to do that with like, a bunch of different like.
Which we could sell here.
Okay.
I don't know why we never.
Well, we'll explore. We'll explore that.
What's it called?
Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't Hollywood right up the street?
Yeah, right up the street. No, it's based off of it's actually a female or a group of female characters based off of Rosie the Riveter. So it's like, she's supposed to be like this badass superhero who's, kicking ass and taking names and, living for hers and her life, and, just it's like loosely based off Barbie and the Bratz dolls. So it's like there's an endless amount of Hollies. So the girls, instead of they're all Hollies. There's like gothic Holly and breakdancer Holly and street artist Holly and whatever. So it's just like they're all individual. It's basically who you identify with. So it's just like each individual Holly, people are supposed to identify with based on their lifestyles or their criteria that they've lived with.
Yeah, you had actually talked to me at one point about possibly designing some of it. Unfortunately, it's just a different different style of art than
right.
Otherwise I'd have jumped on that.
Well, eventually once I find the Holly that's gonna be like the flagship Holly, we'll get you to tattoo her on.
Right on. Yeah, maybe that'll be another episode.
Yeah, there you go. The 1300th episode.
Right. Yeah, man. Fuck, dude. Long, strange trip it's been.
And it gets longer. It's longer and stranger.
Yeah.
There's a the old adage is that what a small world. It's like with the more people that you meet and the more time you spend on the planet, theoretically, the world gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
You visit more places, you meet more people, you do more things. It's like, okay, well, what else is there left to do?
Yep. I can totally relate with, being from Baltimore. We actually called it Smoltimore at one point. And then you get outside of it and realize, like, wow, there's a whole nother fucking world out there, dude.
Yeah. And like, with bucket list wise, my wife and I just had to go to Egypt to do a show at the base of the pyramid.
I remember you telling me that Egypt was like the only place you hadn't been that you were dying to go.
Wanted to go, yeah. And like, I have some friends who work with and play with the Chili Peppers, and they did a show there, and I was like, oh my god, that's literally my dream gig. And then we got to go do it. We ended up leaving our honeymoon a little early to fly from DC to Egypt and back, and I will say that it wasn't as prestigious as I thought it was going to be, playing that show out in the middle of the desert. But it was
cool
literally the last place on earth that I haven't been that I wanted to go, and now that I've checked that off the list, peace.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Antarctica is actually really the only one left, but
Haven't been there yet, huh?
No, there's not really a market for large scale concerts for penguins.
Right. So, what's funny is we were joking about it earlier, but I gotta mention it again. You hit me up the one day and said you weren't going to be able to make it to lunch because you had to fly to Dubai. You were definitely the first and last person that would probably ever say that to me. Sorry, bro, I gotta go to Dubai. Oh,
gotta hop to Dubai for a minute.
I can't point to Dubai on a map of the fucking world.
Yeah. So the ironic thing is that, all right, so when I got clean, like I was no longer like ingesting, 3,000 calories a day worth of alcohol or, you know,
I can relate.
Or, just eating a bunch of junk food, smoking a bunch of weed before going to sleep. So I before I even really set foot in a gym, just changing my lifestyle made me lose 50 pounds. So in the scheme of things, by the time the trip that you're referring to, I had to go to Dubai for the weekend or, whatever. I lost 70 pounds or 71 pounds. I went from 204 to 133. So
you lost a small person.
I lost a whole person. Yeah, exactly.
I found him, by the way.
So we're getting into Dubai was easy. We just, I flew Emirates, got in, went through customs. Hey, have a nice day. Leaving Dubai, however, I show up to the airport for security, and this dude who's like the majority of the people at the Dubai airport are dressed like sheiks, and I get up to the security line, and the dude looks at my passport, and he looks at me, and he looks at my passport, and he's like, "You got anything else?" I was like, "Yeah, I have a second passport. Here's my second passport." He goes, "This doesn't look like you either." So he starts calling people over and talking to them in Arabic.
Because you lost that much weight.
Yeah, lost that much weight. And they're pointing at the passport and pointing at me and like calling people over who were behind me in line and being like, "Does this look like this guy?" And people like, just random strangers are like, "No, that's not him. That's obviously not him." And I'm standing there being like, first of all, I'm like offended. I'm like, why the fuck are you showing other people my passport? And second of all, I was like, yo, this is me. And so they make me sit there for a while, and then they take me into this back room where everybody's dressed like a sheik. I guess it's like the head of the security office.
Interrogating you like a terrorist.
And everybody starts yelling in Arabic. So like there's just all these people screaming in Arabic and pointing at me and pointing at my passport, and then some dude who's dressed like a general shows up, and the dude they're like, "Come with me." So I was like, okay, and they take me out of the airport and like down these like subterranean stairs to this bunker underneath the airport where they're not dressed like sheiks anymore. They're all dressed like generals, but they're all still screaming in Arabic and pointing at my passport and pointing at me. And I'm like, yo, what the hell's going on? So I start texting. This had
nothing to do with the C4 strapped to your chest?
No, my ball bearings in my luggage? No. So they're...
Ball bearings.
So they...
Fertilizer.
They're whatever, they're screaming at me. And meanwhile, like 2 hours have passed. And so then they take me to like the front door of the airport, like the general population entrance, and just send me to two guys, and they're like, yo, this isn't you. And I was like, yeah, it is. You want to see my Instagram profile? And the one dude looks at me, he goes, "This is the border. We don't care about Instagram."
This is the border.
And I was like, look, this is me. These are my other passports that I have. This is me. My driver's license, this is me. This doesn't look like you. And then some dude disappears behind me, and I hear some guy going, "Wedding. I was like, I turn around, I was like, yo, my name's Warren. I understand what you're trying to do, but this is me. I'm trying to just leave your country. And so whatever, we stand.
Yeah, you'd think it'd be harder to get in. Like, I'm trying to get the fuck out of here, dog.
Just let me out. And I'm like, yo, look at my Instagram page. So finally, after like an hour of them Xeroxing things and calling people or whatever, they're like, okay, let's see your Instagram page. So I was like, all right, so here's me 3 years ago with a koala bear in Australia, and here's me 3 years later with the same koala bear in Australia. Look how skinny I am. And the guys go, "Oh my God, you've lost so much weight. Can we get some diet advice?" And I was like, yo, you guys are Muslim, right? You're not going to want to hear my diet advice. And they're like, why? And I was like, because I eat a lot of bacon. And they're like, oh, no.
Keto, man, keto.
Yeah. And so finally they let me go, but they're like, yo, we're not letting you back in the country with this passport. They're like, you need a new passport. I was like, but this passport doesn't expire for 10 years. And they're like, we don't care. We're not letting you back in with this passport. We flagged it.
We don't care.
Well, so I was like, all right, fine. So, fast forward to like maybe about 6 months ago, I got a new passport that's got my my current weight on it or whatever. But the ironic thing is that my UK spouse visa that I just got put in the fat passport. And my wife and I were getting back from Italy for meeting her family, and the British border's looking at me like, what's going on here? And I was like, I just lost a lot of weight. The British border patrol, at least they have facial recognition software. So they just put me in front of the facial recognition software.
And they don't have it in a place like Dubai.
Apparently not. And the ironic thing is I was there for a technology conference. So, yeah, like a robotics technology conference. So we'll see what happens when I go back. Maybe I just try to slip my old passport in, but I don't want to risk the fact that they're just going to confiscate it from me. So maybe I just use the one with my current weight on it. But yeah, that was a very, very, very interesting trip.
Well, if we just don't hear from you anymore at one point, I'll know to reach out to
the Dubai embassy.
Some officials in Dubai.
Yeah, so they can scream at you in Arabic.
Right.
But yes, I'll be there in January, and I think we're supposed to go to Oman, Jordan, or Doha, Qatar, as well.
Really?
Yeah.
And then who are you going there with?
The Black Eyed Peas.
Right.
They in the last 2 or 3 years with the Black Eyed Peas, we've played a whole bunch of Middle Eastern countries, and actually we did a show in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, which was the first show.
Riyadh,
Saudi Arabia, not on the list of places that I was planning on going to in my lifetime, but yeah. So we went to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and that was the first show in the history of Saudi Arabia that men and women were allowed to attend a concert together.
Oh, wow.
They always had men's sections.
Yeah, people don't get it when they talk about oppression in this country.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and we did that, and then we just got back from Israel. We played a show in Jerusalem, Israel, and we played that show in Cairo, Egypt. So it's just for some reason the Black Eyed Peas are huge, in the Middle East. So we're going back to Dubai. We're going to Doha, Qatar, and then we're doing. I was like, we're playing all these religious sites. Like, when's our show in Mecca?
Yeah, dude. Shit, I had to get my fucking shit together, legal issues taken care of, so I get a fucking passport and go to some of these places, dude. It's pretty wild.
Jerusalem was pretty
You said
intense.
I could fucking tattoo backstage at some of these places, right?
Yeah, totally.
That'd be dope.
Totally.
Well, I've been just shown an iPad that has 5 minutes left, and there's a giant dick on it. So I don't know if he's trying to say that he wants to blow me in 5 minutes or what.
I think that's it.
But yeah, we're at a good spot where we can take a break from this. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the first episode of the Broken Crayons podcast. I'm Church. I want to thank my buddy Warren here for
thank you, homie,
sitting in, letting me torture him. And remind everybody that we have a program in place to help artists with addiction issues get their lives and careers back on track. If you or anyone you know fits that description and you think we can help, feel free to reach out. And again, thanks for tuning in.